What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It's time to continue our 2023 schedule preview and projected records for the 2023 college football season, and we continue them with the Oklahoma Sooners. Here's a schedule last year for the Oklahoma Sooners: 6-7 overall record last year in 2022, and 6-6 regular season for this Oklahoma team. You look at who they played in the non-conference. They played UTEP, Kent State, Nebraska on the road. So they didn't have too tough of a non-conference schedule. They started those games out pretty strong. They started out 3-0, and then they ended up losing 3 straight to Kansas State, TCU on the road, and then Texas and Dallas, which they got blown out in that game. Obviously, Dillon Gabriel got hurt in the season, so that kind of hurt their chances to be a really good team from last year. They did beat Kansas, Iowa State on the road, and then Oklahoma State at home, but they had a pretty tough time in November. They lost to Baylor, West Virginia, and then Texas Tech to end things out on the road. So it was an up and down season for Oklahoma. I think they'll be a lot better, though, this season heading into 2023. Dillon Gabriel obviously coming back is the biggest return for them, so he's maybe a top 10 quarterback heading into 2023. Let's look at the schedule now for this Oklahoma team heading into 2023, and here's the schedule for Oklahoma. And you see who they'll play in the non-conference. They'll play Arkansas State, SMU, and then they'll play on the road at Tulsa. So the non-conference schedule is not too tough this year. It wasn't tough last year. Of course, they played Nebraska on the road, but it's kind of similar to last year. They'll play a non-conference team out of the non-conference on the road once again, and this time it will be on the road at Tulsa. So not too tough of a non-conference schedule for this Oklahoma team. Like I said, it's kind of similar to last year for this Oklahoma team, and they'll play almost every single team in the Big 12. So let's go game by game now for this Oklahoma team. So they'll kick off the season with their 3 non-conference games with Arkansas State, SMU, and then they'll play Tulsa here on the road. So get 3 non-conference games to kick off the year. That's really easy there. Remember, they started out 3-0 last year, but things could start to fall apart heading into Big 12 play. But they'll play Cincinnati here on September the 23rd. They'll play back-to-back road games here, but at least it's not back-to-back road games against Big 12 teams. But they'll play Cincinnati here, one of the newcomers in the Big 12 this year. That will be an interesting game on the road on September the 23rd. And then they'll play Iowa State after that on September the 30th. And then they'll play Texas here on October the 7th. A revenge game here for Oklahoma. Game obviously wasn't even that close last year. Texas with a lot of hype coming into this 2023 season. And then they'll play UCF after that. They'll get a bye week after playing that Texas game. UCF, one of those newcomers in the Big 12, so they'll get this one at home. And what an interesting game this will be. Dillon Gabriel playing his former school. That will be an interesting one there. And then they'll play on the road at Kansas. And they'll play on the road at Oklahoma State. So you got back-to-back road games here with Kansas and Oklahoma State. Kansas has a lot of production coming back. Oklahoma State, this will be still a tough road game, even though they lost a lot of production due to the transfer portal. But I think this will be still a game that can go either way. Plus, it's a rival game. You never know what can happen. And then they'll play West Virginia after that, a revenge game here for Oklahoma on November the 11th. And then they'll play BYU here on November the 18th. So they'll play the newcomers in the Big 12. They'll play 2 of those newcomers in the Big 12 on the road. They'll play BYU and Cincinnati here. They'll play Cincinnati on September the 23rd, and then they'll play BYU in late November, so they'll get that one on the road as well. And then they'll end things out here with TCU at home on November the 24th. So schedule overall not that tough for Oklahoma this year. I don't think it was. I think it was pretty tough last year, but they couldn't stay healthy enough. But I think Oklahoma will be ready for this schedule heading into 2023. Let's get to the projection now for this Oklahoma team, and this is the scale I pretty much use for my projections. If you've been watching the projected record videos throughout this year so far, if it's a 1% game, those are games where Oklahoma has no chance of winning. 20% games in the orange, these are games where Oklahoma is going to be about a couple touchdowns of an underdog. 40% games in the yellow, games where Oklahoma is going to be about a touchdown of an underdog. But you probably won't see any of those games on here, because we know Oklahoma is almost going to be favored in almost every single one of their games. 50-50 games, these will stay in the white, pretty much games where they can go either way. 60% games, these are games where Oklahoma is going to be favored by a touchdown in the purple. 80% games in the blue, games where Oklahoma is going to be favored by a couple touchdowns. And then 90% games, These are games where Oklahoma is going to be favored by a lot, by more than 3 touchdowns. So, and that's what we always start with. We're going to start with the green games here for Oklahoma, the easy wins for them. And that's 3 of those on the schedule. I got the non-conference games here, Arkansas State, SMU, and Tulsa. I think Tulsa, though, is about 90%, and SMU is about 90%, because both of those teams are actually pretty good, and that will be a tough road game there for Oklahoma, but I think they should take care of business in all 3 of these games. Arkansas State is over 99%. I think they will take care of business in that game, but 3 of these non-conference games to kick off the year is really in good shape for this Oklahoma team. I think they will take care of business, just like I said, and they have no business to lose all 3 of these games. Unless something slips up there for Oklahoma, but I think they will be taking care of business in all 3 of these games. We now go to the games here where Oklahoma is going to be favored by a couple touchdowns in the blue, about 80%. And I got 3 of those on the schedule. I got Iowa State, UCF, and West Virginia. These are all Big 12 games. Iowa State obviously wasn't that good last year. That's why I got to put it in the blue. And like I said, when I do these projected record videos, these are just based off of where the teams were last year. And that's why I got to put this one in the blue. I probably would have put it in the green if Oklahoma had a decent season last year, but I'm going to put it in the blue. UCF, obviously one of those newcomers in the Big 12. I think Oklahoma would be favored by a couple touchdowns, even though it's a UCF team that's pretty good and all, but I think this will be a game where Oklahoma is going to be favored by a couple touchdowns. West Virginia after that, on November the 11th, I know they got beat by them last year. It should be a purple game. But I think Oklahoma, with them being at home, I think this will be quite enough for Oklahoma to be a couple touchdowns of a favorite. So those are the 3 games where Oklahoma, I think, will be favored by a couple touchdowns. We now go to the games where Oklahoma is going to be favored by a touchdown, about 60% in the purple. And that's almost the majority of their schedule. It's Cincinnati on the road, Kansas on the road, BYU on the road, and then TCU here at home. So I got them favored by a touchdown in all 4 of these games. Cincinnati and BYU are kind of similar. They're newcomers in the Big 12, but they're both on the road. That's why I got to put it both in of these games in the purple. Kansas on the road, that will be a tough one. I think that will obviously be their toughest road game of the year. I'm not saying Oklahoma State's their toughest road game. I think Kansas, with them a lot of production coming back, I think that's going to be a game where it can go either way. But Kansas, I think, just needs the talent. If they can find the talent there, from both sides of the ball, this will be switched probably to a 50-50 game by the time we do those predictions. But as of right now, I'm going to favor Oklahoma in this game just because they beat them last year as well. TCU, obviously, it's a home game, but I think, from where they were last year, I got to put this one in the purple now just because TCU does lose quite a lot of talent from that last year's team. But as of right now, Oklahoma, I think, will be favored by touchdowns in all 4 of these games. But like I said, it could switch to 50-50 games by the time we do those predictions. And the rest of the 2 games here on the schedule, Texas, Oklahoma State on the road, I think these are both 50-50 games. I think these are games where they can go either way. Texas, obviously a rival game. You never know what can happen. Oklahoma State on the road, another rival game that you never know what can happen. Texas obviously beat Oklahoma badly last year. I think this game will be much closer than it was last year. Dillon Gabriel was obviously, not 100% heading into that Texas game last year. So maybe he is 100% this time, and I think Oklahoma has what it takes to maybe beat Texas this year, maybe, but as of right now, it's a 50-50 game. Oklahoma State, I know they lose a lot of production, but I think this is still a 50-50 game just because it's a rival game. You never know what can happen, so I think these 2 games right here, Oklahoma will be 50-50 games. How many games do I see them winning out of those 50-50 games? They could win both of them. I think they only win 1 out of those 2 games. I think, it comes to Texas maybe Oklahoma State, but I think they are going to lose 1 of those games. But Texas is a neutral site game, so they could probably still lose that game, but you never know what can happen. I mean, these are both rival games for Oklahoma. You just never know what can happen. But let's now get to the projected record for this Oklahoma team. So if you look at the schedule here, games where Oklahoma is going to be favored in, and also the games that are 50-50 games. Not my official prediction. This is simply a projection based on this schedule. The overall projected record for this Oklahoma team heading into 2023 so far is going to be 10-2. I think, like I said, they lose 1 out of those 2 games, but they could lose 1 of those road games in the purple. Cincinnati obviously could be a loss. Kansas obviously is a game that you don't want to sleep on. BYU on the road. Those are tough road games. This is a team that could possibly go 8-4. 9-3 is probably their ceiling, or actually their floor right now. I think best case scenario would be probably 11-1. They probably just lose one of those road games. But as of right now, Oklahoma's projected record comes out to be 10-2. Like I said, I think they win one out of those two games there in the white with Texas and Oklahoma State. But as of right now, Oklahoma's projected record is 10-2. Let me guys know what you think about this Oklahoma team down in the comments below. And we'll continue to do more college football projections this week on this channel. And keep subscribing to this channel if you are new. So if you like the sports content and everything. And stay tuned here for more sports content on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.